Welcome back everyone to Berlin Noir. We're on episode 4 today, and we start off here, and pretty much for the entire episode, building this small little block here. So this is going to be pretty much entirely copied from the real life location of the Gendarmenmarkt Plaza, I guess. Yeah, so here I'm working on one of the two cathedrals located in this spot. This one being the German one, or no, that one being the French one, my bad. Yes, so this is the French one, and apparently they're both, at least the main part of the buildings, are pretty much identical. I know the German one was built first, and the French one later on, but the French one here does have some sort of whatever styled red roof part. I honestly don't know what the heck that was, but I use procedural objects here to just kind of remove and lower into the ground that back half of the cathedral here and throw in this part of a church, actually. And it's not exactly to what actually exists, but I guess in passing or just in some cinematics, you can obviously tell the difference between that and the German one to the left, and that's what I was going for. So similar style, similar appearance, and that's the best I came up with. And also using procedural objects. Can't talk today. I'm a little new to the game with that and not super comfortable. Not to mention, I had to cut out probably 10 minutes worth of footage. Maybe not sped up, but just like real-time footage of just having to sitting and waiting for the procedural objects to like load, because that particular those two cathedrals there, I guess the creators just put a ton of those little nodes or whatever the heck they are on procedural objects where you can edit all the points of the building, and there was just so many of them that it would take at least 2 minutes for me to convert it to PO and then try and edit it, and the first time it nearly crashed my game, so I didn't want to mess around a lot with that. But it's, as I said, no joke, probably at least 10 minutes of just sitting around waiting, just trying to make those small edits, and I kind of gave up trying to make it perfect at the very beginning when I was doing the French cathedral there. It turns out alright, I figured. I did size both of them down a bit. I was looking around on the map and also just in both real life satellite view in Germany, but also in the game, just trying to find the correct scaling for everything, and it seemed that they were a tad bit large, so I did scale them down, but also because this area that I'm building in, there wasn't that much room to add like paths like I'm doing right now around the back, looping around, which I definitely wanted to do since there was quite a good number of images of this particular area back from the 1920s and 30s that I was able to look at and get a good idea of what actually existed here. And yeah, so making all these paths, I enjoyed. People who really go to town detailing the landscape with paths, particularly making nice curves, things like this, it always looks really nice in game, and I honestly do not do it enough. So part usually just because I don't build type cities that require that type of landscaping, but this gave me an opportunity to try some things out, make some nice curves on some paths, and just be a little creative there with how it looked. But I guess as I continue building this here, one thing I wanted to ask you guys about was, so in the previous episode, one of the things we built was a Reichstag, and I didn't mention in the video, though I did put in the comments, that asset and every asset available on the workshop is one of the modern ones. So it's got the modern glass dome, And so I selected the nicest of these assets. So the one I used is a very nice asset. Like, it's very detailed, looks very nice, but like I said, it has a dome and is quite noticeably modern. Not to mention it has a EU flag on top on one of the sides. But I mean, that's something small, but the dome is sizable, and many of you pointed it out. But I was considering when I was building it to use procedural objects to try and shrink down that dome and put some other building with a nice dome similar to the one that existed back then on top of the Reichstag, but I couldn't find one. There was one building right next to the Brandenburg Gate, which is actually part of the actual asset is some high school or college. I don't know. It's some education building. And that would work, but for whatever reason, when that building in particular is converted to PO, the dome disappears, and so does the roof. So I couldn't use that one, which is a bummer, because that was probably my best option, and it was a really nice dome that I could put on top there. So if any of you have any ideas, because I did look around on the workshop and just through what I already had subscribed to see if I could find a dome to put on top there, but I just couldn't find anything. So yeah, let me know if you think of anything or use anything yourself that I could convert to PO and throw on top of there, so I could get rid of the modern dome on top of the Reichstag. So that would be much nicer. But anyhow, now we here are moving to the center building here. I guess this is the actual market, which the area is named after, if I'm not mistaken. I guess it was used as a market way back when in the 20s. People would go there and for whatever, shopping, eating, I'm not really sure. But yeah, so I also scaled this one down because this building was extremely large when I placed it down originally. It was definitely a bit too large relative to everything else in the city. So I scaled it down, but I went fairly simple on the detailing out in front, since from the pictures I was looking at, that was the case of this area anyways. So I figured I'd skip or resort to what actually existed back then and just basically throw some fountains out there. And I did in a second here just throw some stone decals out there in front just to change up the color and texture of the large just concrete out in front, because I will have to start doing this pretty much all over the city and probably having to go back to what I've already built. But I mean, obviously all the road textures and sidewalk textures, all those stones were not the same throughout the city, in real life. There was plenty of variation. Some were even paved with type of asphalt on the road. So I will have to go back and add some different textures and decals, whatever it may be, to change up just the monotony of the dark stone roads and the lighter stoned pavements. Just because, yeah, it gets quite repetitive and boring looking at it. Because I know when I try and take screenshots, I don't know, just seeing the exact same stuff throughout the city just looks kind of weird. So that's something I will have to definitely fix in some later episodes. Probably off camera. Who knows? Maybe I'll put some of it on camera because it will probably be quite repetitive, just boring, but we'll see. But so several of you have brought up the idea of adding in some sort of historical background to what I'm building on screen. And it's been quite a good number of you guys, and I like the idea. When I first started the series, I kind of wanted to do something like that, but I don't know, obviously I haven't up to this point. But yeah, a good number of you suggested that, so that's something I'd like to do, because I know a number of YouTubers, I know Skibbeth has done some sort of similar thing, and also Taser here on some of his series. But they add some sort of historical background to, the city they're building. And of course, all their stuff is fictional. They're making up their own city. So it's, but they're still creating a history for their particular city and series that they're doing. So given that this is heavily inspired and to some degree copied from an actual real life city, it's not like we can necessarily make up a history of, Berlin here, but I think, we could still make up some stories and add some, plausible historical events in Berlin, or at least this version here of Berlin. Because even though, it's, like I said, based on Berlin, it's not a one-to-one version of it. It's by no means an exact copy. So considering that a number of you brought it up and, proposed this idea, I think it'd be cool if, you guys in the comments were to create some sort of storyline or, create some side history of, this version here of Berlin that we are building. So, nothing like, actual history, I could always do some of that, though. The reason I haven't done that already is the fact that such a large percentage of my audience is actually from Germany. Something about pretty much equal to my audience from America is from Germany. So I found it kind of, not pointless, but I just didn't find it necessary to give the history of Germany when half my audience probably knows more than me anyways. So that's why I think it'd be better, but also a little more cooler, just to come up with some, our own history of this particular part in history and in Berlin. So whether it be just, something about a shop owner or, a priest in one of these cathedrals here we're building, whatever it may be, just come up with something, and if this all goes to plan, I can feature stories that are, popular, that are voted up in the comments, and feature them in some cinematics or, whatever it may be, and after the video, or even as just a separate cinematic video, just to make like a short 5-10 minute video to maybe squeeze in between my regular builds like this that are weekly. So I think that would be cool, and since a good number of you guys brought that up, I figure you guys think that would be cool as well. So let me know. You can go ahead and start, writing anything you want in the comments. It could be not just about this build here, but also just anything so far, or even stuff I'm going to be building in the future. For instance, the next episode is probably going to be, I'm going to be working on a couple of the train stations that are directly south of the Brandenburg Gate, or at least back then. The Anhalter and the Potsdamer Bahnhof, I guess they were called. Probably not the correct pronunciation, but yeah, those two stations, the two terminus train stations that were pretty close to the Brandenburg Gate, and I already plopped them down to try and figure out which assets I want to use for the train stations, because there is actually a Anhalter Bahnhof asset in the workshop, which I tried to use, and I probably will use, but for the other station, I wasn't quite sure what to do. I'm still looking around. It's definitely not going to be the exact same one that existed back then, because that definitely doesn't exist on the workshop. But again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same as what actually existed back then, as long as it's just a terminal train station that's not super large, but just a few tracks, a few platforms, which is what I will build in the coming episodes. But so here, I'm just working on building some of the whatever this is, all the I don't know if it's storage rooms and like stores underneath a lot of the S-Bahn rail lines in the city. Just because building the cathedrals and the whole plaza there at the start of the episode was a sizable thing, and I didn't want to start a whole new large project. I wanted to save that for another episode, so I just figured this would be some filler that you guys haven't seen yet, and that's cool to see, I suppose. But using procedural objects and trying to suffer through that, which I'm getting a little more comfortable with that, but still there's a lot of things that I'm just like, this is annoying. But yeah, in time I'm sure it'll be extremely easy. But so what was I saying beforehand? Oh yes, I guess I can continue on the story idea. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think about that. It's not something we have to do, if I don't get a favorable response or enough things in the comments about stories or history of the city, then I won't end up doing it. But because I'm content either way, really, whether I just be building things with some general commentary in the back, or adding some story to what I'm actually building. But either way, I want that story to come from you in the comments, because I don't want to have to make it up myself. Not because I'm lazy, although maybe partially, but just because I think it'll be much cooler to get the interaction with all you, all the viewers, and help my channel out, I'm sure, as well. But yeah, I guess speaking of my channel, I want to say thanks to everyone who subscribed. I have just surpassed 500 subs, which isn't a lot by any means, but it's halfway to 1,000, which for any new YouTuber, that's always the goal, to hit 1,000 subscribers, because from there, of course, you can monetize things, however little you will be making from the videos, but also it's a big aspect of motivation, because several of you have already brought up the idea of me opening up a Patreon account, which I definitely do not plan on doing until I hit at least 1,000 subscribers, because I didn't want to have to open one up and then you guys start giving me donating to the Patreon account, and then I would just maybe eventually just fade off, stop making videos, because obviously I don't want that to happen. So I wanted to wait until I hit 1,000 subscribers, because if I do hit 1,000, then I feel like by then it's going to be more of a routine for me. So if I make it that far, then I think I'm good to go. This is basically my point. So once I do get there, then yeah, I'll open up, allow you guys, however many of you that asked already, to have access to save games, or whatever it may be that you want through a Patreon account. But that's definitely down the road. But yeah, so here is just one of the last things I end up building, just to kind of just fill in some more time in the video, because I mean, I haven't built too many blocks on camera. Most of it is done off camera, because I didn't want to it is definitely repetitive, using a lot of the same buildings, and they're just more or less in the same style. So I tend to only show the ones that are, maybe a unique shape that they're in, or for instance, this one here, it's right next to the rail line there, so something a little different, a little more unique compared to the majority of the blocks that I have built off camera. So I don't want to not show any of it, because that's what fills up a ton of the city. So it's a lot of filler that I wouldn't, I don't want to just build half the city off camera, because that kind of feels wasteful. So we're getting close to the end of the video and the cinematics. And so for the cinematics, I added a few more than usual. I usually keep the cinematics pretty short, and that's just because since it is a new city, we're only, this is the 4th episode in, I can't get any really nice wide shots that are zoomed out. I have to be pretty close, and so there's only so many shots of something you can get up close before it just gets repetitive and boring. But now that we're getting some stuff done and expanding, I have also gone back and took some cinematic shots of some previously built things, so a little nicer, with a nicer view, stuff around it. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy the cinematics here coming up. But before we go, I just want to ask, if you enjoyed the video so far, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, help people find the channel, and get me closer to 1,000 subscribers. So I hope you all enjoyed this, build, and see you next week when we build some train stations.